All right, ladies and gentlemen, those cannons are ready to go, so plug them if you got them.
Down.
Definitely wakes you up.
Dead soldiers up there, see him?
Now, the Battle of Chippewa was a stunning victory for the Americans that completely shocked the British. When the next battle came 20 days later at Lundy's Lane, the British were not going to take the Americans as lightly. They made sure that their best troops were arranged, but the problem was in the darkness and the smoke of the fighting, they bombarded the Americans with their cannons. The Americans stood fast, but then it seemed like out of the smoke, the Americans advanced to the bayonet, captured the British guns, and had the heights. The British were not going to be schooled twice. They fixed bayonets and 3 times charged those heights, attempting to capture them back in a bloody and gruesome fight in which the smoke of that battle, there are records of men less than 10 paces apart, not even knowing there were men in front of them. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you may have heard a couple of lovely young ladies walking around bantering about support the fort. I know it was said to you earlier, but I'll just remind you again that this entire thing is done without your tax dollars. As a member of the Niagara Parks Commission, we don't get a dime from the government to run an event like this. So to ensure that something like this can keep going without your tax dollars, we're asking for your kindly dollars. So those lovely ladies, if you throw in a penny, throw in a nickel, dime, whatever you can. If you throw in a 20, you get a complimentary handshake. If anybody throws in a 50 or higher, I will hug you. That wasn't meant to be a threat.
Getting ready. Getting ready. Not quite.
If you look closely, ladies and gentlemen, out in the center of the British line, you may notice there's one group of soldiers that aren't all in red. They're kind of in a mishmash of different colors. One of the unsung heroes, I guess you could say, of the War of 1812 in both armies were the men of the militia. Militia was a mandatory service of any able-bodied male citizen of the country. So you could be called up anywhere from 3 months to a full year in which you would have to serve either the king or the republic, depending on which side of the border you're on. Oh, here come the guns. Oh no, false alarm, they're just ramming. Like I said, I like to warn you. Now, the reason the militia are looking so mishmash is because the militia did not receive uniforms. There were so many of them, the government couldn't afford it. So a lot of them came out wearing whatever was on top of their dresser. And sometimes they were quite literally defending their own homes. All right, here comes the guns. You get used to it after a while. Yeah, after you work here for 9 years, you kind of get used to it. And a lot of those militia, like I said, were fighting right on their doorstep pretty much. Battles like Queenston Heights, you had men who were fighting within view of their own homes. The Battle of Chippewa, there are actually record that one of the Canadians who died just a few hundred feet from his own homestead. So this was a war that had become very close to home. By the end of the 1814 campaign, very little of the homesteads in this area were still standing. War had ravaged and torn apart this region, and it would take almost 2 generations to rebuild. Now, out on the battlefield here, we're seeing all this gunfire and all this, and one of the things that a lot of people notice is it seems like the officers, the guy with the fanciest uniforms, it seems like they don't get hit. Well, there's a reason for that, and that's because for safety reasons, these guys are pretty much keeping an eye on their own guys, so we don't want them to take a hit. But historically, one of the most dangerous jobs on a battlefield, being an officer. Officers in this time period got promoted and got noticed if they were living dangerously and out in the middle of all this danger. So they would be in front, right in the thick of it. As one British officer put it, you should not share danger with your men, you should covet it from them. And they most certainly did. At Lundy's Lane, of the 6 generals present on the field, only one left the battlefield without being shot. He had 3 bullet holes in his hat, 7 in his coat, and 3 horses killed under him.
Years. Oh, they're longer.
Now you can hear the sweet, dulcet tones of the highest pitched and most annoying thing on the site, a fife. Crying out over the noise of battle, the fife, being so high-pitched, cut through that low rumble of gunfire, and as a result, musicians became the walkie-talkies of 200 years ago. If you needed to tell someone at the other end of the battlefield what was going on or what you needed them to do, there was a song to tell that message. So you turned to your musicians and have them play it away. And contrary to popular belief, they weren't drummer boys. Most of them were full-grown men. I mean, you got paid better and you stood behind everybody else. That's a pretty good job. You just need to know over 40 different commands for each of 3 instruments. Oh, the cannons are ready, so there's going to be another kaboom.
Oh, got the tree.
Now, if you think those are loud, I want you to imagine that these guns here, they're a good size, but I want you to keep in mind that at the Battle of Lundy's Lane, there was a gun that the British were firing that would have fired a 24-pound iron ball out to a distance of almost a mile. These guns are examples of, they're about the size of about a 4-pounder or 6-pounder. So I'll give you an idea on the size of that 24, and it would have fired between 6 and 8 pounds of gunpowder every time it was fired.
Like where? Oh, sure.